Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast, Finding Your Flow. I'm so excited to have you here. So, I want to welcome you to our new season of this transformational podcast, and it's called My Intuition Made Me Do It. I'm your host, Jennifer Jane Young, and I'm here to ignite inspiration within you. I'm the author of Say Yes to Your Yes, How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap, and the visionary behind the School of Intuitive Leadership. I've dedicated my life to empowering individuals to trust their intuition and lead their lives from that powerful inner wisdom. Through my work as an international speaker and intuitive leadership advisor, I've witnessed the transformative power of following one's intuition firsthand with entrepreneurs and organizations around the world. This season, we're diving deep into the stories of people who dare to listen to their inner voice and take the leap. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of intuition, sharing captivating experiences that will reignite your belief in the incredible guidance within you. Get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. It's time to embrace the clarity and courage that comes from trusting your intuition. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired into action. Your dreams are waiting. Let's make them a reality together. Welcome to this season of the podcast, My Intuition Made Me Do It. I'm super excited to have you here, and I'm really excited for people to get to know you and hear your story because I heard a little bit of it the other day and I got really excited because a lot of what you do is a lot of what inspires me, a lot in my life personally, and also inspires my work. So I'm going to start with the first burning question, which is, what did your intuition make you do?
You want to know, I saw that your other, your podcast, I saw that that was like your title and that people had come up with sayings for that. And I thought, well, what do I want to say my intuition made me do? And I remember this moment and my intuition made me throw up my hands and say, I effing give up. I give up. Like my intuition was, something knows way more than I do with my actions. And I just said, I give up. I give up my control to my intuition.
Mhm. Oh my God, I've been talking a lot about this week, actually, about surrender and how
Yes.
important it is to surrender to our intuition. And we often fight it, right? It's like we feel this
Yeah.
thing and it feels too complicated or too scary. And like we were talking about just before we got on, it's not logical. So we're like, I don't know how to deal with this because it's not fitting into like the left side of my brain here.
Yeah.
Um, so what was your intuition asking you to do? Like, what did you surrender to?
Um, well, I'm that, through the life events that I had as an adult, it was like getting a 2x4 to the forehead, right? Like, wake up, here you go, wake up, here you go, because I wasn't listening, like you
Mm.
say. I wasn't strong enough. I was buried under too many layers of programming and generational expectations. And so I just kept having these extremely traumatic moments. And I kept trying, and I'm like, I'm trying. I'm a good person. And so this would have been, I found myself homeless January of COVID, overnight,
Oh.
unexpectedly. I didn't know it was coming. It was a domestic thing. Here I am, a teacher guiding high risk young adults, sitting in a chair going, I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight. And a few months later, I was sitting in this exact room which is my newest house, which would be
Mm.
3 years ago. And I was like, I just had this realization, like, you don't, whatever you're doing is wrong. Like, you're not getting results that show how hard you're trying to get your life in order. There were patterns that were so deeply ingrained. And that's when I was just like, I can't, I can't do this to myself anymore.
Mm.
I quit. I quit trying in the ways I have been. And that was where I had to trust something that wasn't anything I've ever trusted before, you know?
Mm.
And so, but I was sitting in this room and I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. And I don't even know what that means, but I know I need to announce it. I'm done. So, um,
Yes.
it's kind of like giving up control and being in flow, like you said, surrendering, but yet at the same time embracing the fact that I had the power to choose to never get myself close to one of those situations again. So it's kind of
Mm.
both. It's both at the same time.
I just got like so many chills. I think that there are so many people that are actually dreaming of doing exactly what you did. Just be like, you know what? I'm done. I'm so done.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. And we're so scared to surrender to that point. But I find that those are the moments in life when we're like, you know what? I'm done fighting. I'm done pushing. I'm done working so hard. I'm just done. And I surrender and I let go and I'm gonna see what happens here. So I feel like there's so many people that are going to relate to that, and hopefully allow themselves to surrender as well. Because one, our nervous system deserves so much better than that,
Yeah.
right? Like it is so hard on our nervous
Mm.
systems to experience that day to day. And like so many magical surprises after once we surrender. So I would love to hear a little bit about two things. This question is like twofold. What did what did that intuitive feeling initially feel like for you? Like in your body? Like what was that initially? And then once you did surrender, what is some magic that happened after that you would love to share with us?
Mm. I think that moment of surrender itself, where you just like throw up your hands and say, I can't do this. Like that moment of release. It's almost, I mean, a kind of a moment of delirium. And it's different. I wasn't in this moment. I wasn't like depressed. I wasn't, but it was empowering to say, I surrender, and to truly try and live that, and then to understand, well, how do I start living into my intuition versus what I think I need to do? Like that's, if I had so much trauma that had built up in my lifetime. Guess what? I've made most of my decisions based on my nervous system's response to preventing fear
Mm,
and survival. So to try and calm that down, to say, oh, that thought that you're getting that you need to do this is based on fear and pattern. You need to just lean into what feels good, and letting go is a tremendous undertaking. um,
hmm.
you don't just all of a sudden decide to not give a shit. Right?
Right.
We don't do that. None of us do that. Nobody who walks through trauma is like, yeah, I wish I just would have given up. And that's not it.
Right.
It's purposely saying, wait a minute, the thoughts I'm thinking are leading me. This is the pattern.
Mm,
How do I stop that? And so by kind of making that formal announcement that I'm done, like I announced it. I'm done. I don't get this. I have to, like, it was my pivot to trusting that I always had my own back, and that I would guide myself on the right direction. And so I I remember I got into a dating relationship maybe 10 months later, and that person was trying to, very soon in, trying to pivot me away from what I had kind of announced, this safety, this sanctuary, this place, and what it means to me. And this
mhm.
person was wonderful to be with. They were a really great person. But in that moment, I realized they were steering me away from my announcement.
Right.
And my intuition told me that was enough reason to leave and to separate that relationship. And it was the first time ever in my life where I made a choice based on one little thing, but it felt like, oh, this isn't going to get me where I want to go. This is a pattern. And I remember I was like, wow. Um, Announcing it at that one moment has been the whole pivot of my whole life. It's
Yeah.
been everything. I announced that in May of 2021. Decided to write my memoir and start documenting my trauma, which I had kind of thought about. It was back there. I decided to do that December of 21. I finished it by May of 22. Quit teaching by July 4th of 22. Intuition, that's another story. And left a career I loved, and then just went, no, my intuition is telling me this is where I need to go. And now here we are. Where are we? We're August of 24. And even my own company that I've tried to establish over 2 years has pivoted a number of times, but it's because I
Yeah.
trusted that my intuition back when I quit my career I loved was so strong it wasn't going to let me fail, so I had to keep following that intuition. I had At that point I'd thrown all the eggs in the basket, and so
Yeah.
I had to continue to say, no, that intuition meant something. Keep going with it. Keep going with it. And so that's right.
Let's just take a quick pause to soak in the goodness of today's story. If you are feeling like your inspiration, your intuition, and your excitement is being ignited right now for your next yes, I invite you to join us in the Say Yes to Your Next Yes community. It is a free space and it is a supportive community for ambitious, purpose driven souls who are ready to trust their intuition, take courageous action, and say yes to the life they know they're meant to live. This space is led by me, Jennifer Jane Young. I'm an intuitive leadership coach and the author of Say Yes to Your Yes: How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap. In this group, you're going to gain direct access to my guidance and coaching support, empowering you to break free from fear, align deeply with your purpose, and confidently take bold steps towards your next big yes in life or in business. Let's turn those intentions into empowered action so you can experience the life you have been dreaming of. Head over to jenniferjaneyoung.com/community to join us today. Now let's get back to the rest of this amazing story.
So that's where I am here today with this company that I freaking love, and it's just changing lives, and I love it. And it was all
Oh
worth
my
it.
goodness. It is. And this is what I love. I love every moment on this podcast season where people are just like, it was all worth it. Because that's the piece
Oh
that I
yeah,
really want people to hear is like, yes, it's a messy journey sometimes. It's uncomfortable, it's unknown, but it's all worth it. And it has been for me every single time I've trusted my gut as well. And there's a few things I want to touch on that you said. One is it was so courageous of you to like release that person when you saw and felt that they were sidetracking you essentially. And there are so many people, and I've done it so many times also, where I could feel that someone was taking me off track, but it's like there was something in me that was like, oh yeah, but it's like
yeah,
always finding these justifications for why it's okay for us to not honor what is actually in the highest and best for us that we know.
yeah,
And a lot of people just let themselves be taken off track. And then it's just like this settling for, oh, well, this is where I am and this is where I'm going, instead of being like, no, I'm going to protect this truth of mine with my life because I know that this is like, I know that I can trust this path that I'm being led on. And the other piece about this that I love that you spoke about that I've experienced over and over again also is that our intuition often leads us to do this next thing. And like we were saying, it's not logical. We don't understand. Like when you were saying, like, I loved my teaching job, but there was
mhm,
something in me that told me that I was meant to go somewhere else and do something else. So I think this is a really important thing to bring forth is to remind people that things don't need to be going wrong for for your
yes,
intuition to lead you somewhere else. Maybe it's just like, okay, well, it's time for growth again. So we're going to lead you in this direction because you need to go experience this new thing, even if you love where you are right now. And I've had a lot of stories like this on the podcast this season of people giving themselves permission to pivot and do something else, even when it didn't make sense.
yeah. And I think that one thing that all of this is pointing back to is I think in a world where self awareness and personal growth, I think, is becoming more alive and readily seen and expressed. There's also a superficial level to some of that, a shine that when you really strip that away, following intuition, healing the patterns, turning your back on something you love based on the
Mm,
fact that it's not easy work. And so, again, I think sometimes there are a lot of people that very woo woo and shiny,
hmm
and they make it seem super easy.
hmm
And I think that following your intuition and following your true purpose is really opening yourself up to risk and
hmm
And the unknown, that's what being in flow is. That's what surrendering
Yeah.
is not knowing, because knowing means you're trying to control the outcome.
Yeah.
And that is scary AF, especially if you've gone through life very concerned about your next steps, your outcome. Am I going to be homeless? Am I going to, whatever your traumas might be.
Mm.
But it's all, but the contrast is there. The level of the life experiences you had that didn't feel good, that didn't
Yeah.
put you where you wanted to be, is only a reflection of how amazing you're meant to be.
Mm.
Right? And so if your life has just sucked, back in 2018, I remember an event I went through. I was telling people, yeah, I know I belong on Dateline. Yeah, I know. And I kept saying that. And then I realized you should write a book.
Yeah.
But if you belong on Dateline, it means you are really out of alignment.
Yeah.
This is not, because it felt that bad. Guess what? I'm over on this side now. And so when you talk about that risk and the value, my amazingness is so off the chart amazing because I felt this level. And so therefore I can pivot to what I'm really supposed to be. So I don't know why I wanted to say that, but sometimes we get just kind of caught off with the superficial stuff that's out there.
I totally agree. And the part that you were talking about of controlling, I actually recorded a little video about this the other day because I was reading a fiction book and it was so good. And like every chapter, I was just like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like I was so excited, you know? And I got this insight of like how us humans, we always want to know. Like we want to know before we take the action. We want to know what the ending is. We want to know where we're going to land. And as I was reading this book I literally devoured. I was like, imagine if I would have read the last chapter first. How
Mm.
boring it would have been to read the book after. It would have
Yeah.
taken all of the magic and excitement out of reading this book that was so like had me on this like edge of my seat the whole time. And I think it's important to remember that when we're wanting to control everything, like that surrender of just allowing life to surprise you. And anyways, our brains are way too limited to be able to even start to imagine the potential that we're capable of. Like it's like this tiny little window that we have versus what is actually possible, which is why we always end up experiencing something completely surprising
Yep.
and new. So I love that. Um, The excruciating question of the interview is always this one, or scary or daunting, is who do you think you would be, or what would your life look like today if you had not surrendered to your intuition and trusted your gut and made these changes?
My intuition started kicking in back in 2008 when the relationship I was in, my marriage, was with someone who was an alcoholic and had some mental health issues going on. And that was when I was like, well, this sure feels, and I was willing to suffer for a long time. So my intuition started kicking in around 2008 into this life of changes. But to reflect back on the one that I made when I sat in this room, that was kind of that announcement. If I
Mm.
hadn't declared that I'm done, like I surrender, like this really full following of intuition,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to see actually where I would be is that I would still be teaching. I would be an amazing teacher. I would still be, saving lives and bonding with young adults and making a huge impact. But I probably can say pretty safely that I would be stuck in this pattern. I probably would have already moved from this house because I had someone get put in my path that was specifically telling me, well, if you loved me, you would sell this house and we get a different one. Right? They were
Mm.
challenging me on the exact thing that I said, no, this house is going to be my sanctuary and I am not moving from this place. And I announced it when I started that relationship,
Mm.
but yet that still became the button very quickly. Well, if you loved me, and I would have, if I hadn't given into my intuition, guess what? I probably would be in another cycle, right?
Mm,
Of I would have been living for other people, following what they wanted, codependency, still
mm,
being an amazing teacher though, and not understanding what it's like to have the flexibility and freedom of an entrepreneur. And I'm still changing lives. I'm
mm.
still now, instead of being like a lighthouse like I was for the students, now I feel like I've broadened. So I'm an influencer's influencer. Like I help people who want to be the lighthouses,
Right.
right? So like it's a level up. It's
Yeah.
I don't and it's a different role and it's a different life and it is not in a box anymore, but
Mm.
I'd be doing the same patterns going, why am I in my 12th house in 10 years? I moved
Yeah.
9 times in 10 years and a lot of it wasn't my choice, per se, right? And guess
Right.
what? That number would keep going. The addresses would have kept changing. So
Mm.
I protect this space and it knows it. This house knows how much I
Yeah.
honor it.
Oh, that's
So
amazing. Yeah, I think, often when I ask this question, what I realize in a nutshell, what people are saying is I would just be a much smaller version of what I'm capable of being.
yeah.
So I love
And I
that.
think for me it means I would still be in trauma. It's not just
Hmm.
even being smaller, that personal level of trauma that I was subjecting myself to my whole lifetime. I so
Yeah.
desperately wanted it to end and it wasn't ending. It
Mm.
wasn't, no matter what I was doing and learning and growing. And so not only would I be a smaller person, I really think I would still be suffering, which means that that was going to get passed down even more to my children because I wasn't, I had to stop it and give
Yeah.
them a choice. So
Oh man, that's
yeah, I don't.
beautiful. You literally broke the cycle for your kids, for the
Yes,
next
I
generation in
did.
your family. That's
I did.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I got like so many chills. Um, for anyone who's watching this episode, and I really believe that
Mm,
the right person who actually really needs to hear your story is going to be listening to this particular podcast. And this is why I'm doing um, this season. It feels really important to me. For anyone who's listening who's wanting to trust their gut also, or is getting an intuitive nudge, but they're maybe feeling stuck or scared or not really sure what to do next, what would be one piece of wisdom that you would love to drop here for them?
it can be, it goes back to the book that you held up at the beginning of this about joy, right?
Yes,
What's
practical joy.
practical
Whoops.
joy? It took me so long to realize that if I feel joy about any decision, any pivot,
Yeah.
that's enough. That's enough to decide, like, to not go sit at that campfire with that group of friends because my body's just telling me, you know what, deep down, you really don't want to, but I should. Stop doing the shoulds and whatever makes you feel happiest is the right answer. No questions, no explanations needed. None.
Mm,
Don't even have to sit there and overthink it. If you know in your heart this brings me joy, that's your right way, and you're honoring yourself over and over, and you don't have to answer to anyone for your joy. So it's not your joy is will come with your intuition, right? They're one and the same, but we
yeah.
feel this sense of responsibility to society or to whatever these shoulds, and we drown in them. And so what my pivot was last year that solidified this for me was it's either a hell yes or a hell no. And I've heard of other people doing this. I literally the whole year was like, it's either a hell yes, I want to do that, or it's a hell no. How much of our life do we live in the freaking muddy middle?
Ah, and I know, and like, it's okay.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm gonna go do that. No, no.
yeah,
And I needed to do
well,
that for myself because my
yeah,
my my being needed to know I loved it enough to go to the hell yeses,
yeah,
no matter what. And so that's do a hell yes, hell no for a week. See what things you end up turning down that you normally
yes.
would have done.
I love that so much. And I love what you just said, that piece of wisdom that you dropped of like, you do not need to justify what you feel is right for you. Like there's no justification needed. And I think that's going to be a huge permission slip for so many people. Um, so I love that. Okay, now I want to hear more about what you are doing now that you're not a teacher. What is your business? I'm like a total book nerd, so I want the name of your book. Tell us about your book. I want to hear all the things. Drop it.
So it started with the book. I'll pull it out. This is my
Yes.
memoir. It's Tumbled. This is my breakout copy. So this is Tumbled. I named her Jules. She's the warrior that showed up in my meditations. And my designer didn't even know, and she went on the cover. And so I say Jules holds all my stories, and now I don't have to. And so Tumbled, a memoir of perseverance, personal growth, and magical transformation is my, and this was getting it out, and then I don't carry it. Like it's not part of my dialogue as I meet people anymore. It's just gone.
Yes.
It's here it is. Here's the chapter. Um, it started with that, and then shortly after Tumbled was published, I had the opportunity to work with a woman who was in hospice care, and I got to write and publish her story for her, with
Oh,
her. And that's called Pigtails and Popcorn. I don't know if I have that sitting right here. Pigtails and Popcorn, Patricia's memoir. And that was really the icing on the cake that I had made the right decision. That was my full-time job for about 5 months after I'd left teaching.
okay.
Talk about a blessing. So that's my second book that I published. And I won't deny that I didn't know where I was going. You know,
Hmm.
I did. I'm gifted with tarot, and so I kind of started a tarot thing, and
Love
I,
it.
I found out I'm an artist, and so then I'm doing art, and then all of a sudden, after Pat's book came out, and it was the biggest blessing in my life, then I got a referral to assist somebody publishing. Hey, I've got a book done. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to self-publish. I don't want to find a lit agent, and there birthed my publishing company. And that was less than a year ago. And we are at 11 authors strong in about 9 months. And people are finding me. And really, my branding is going to change a little bit. It's called Hezzie Mae. Hezzie Mae was my childhood nickname from my dad.
Mm,
And so, at first it was just as an English teacher, it's a natural fit to
yeah.
help people develop their books if they need help developing, editing, designing all the pieces. And now, as I get busier, I get to choose which things are the most joyful for me. But
Mm,
what I really found is that people are coming to be those influencers, and they all have beautiful stories. I have 3 books publishing in the next 2 weeks. 2 of the 3 are gritty memoirs by people who want to share their story.
wow.
And so I realize people are coming with these soul stories.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to pivot that's what Hezzie Mae is really about. It's the safe space for people that feel they have a message, a mission, a passion that they have been called to share. It's not just a publishing company.
Mm,
It's a place of safety for those stories.
right.
Um, and so I think by the end of this year, I think we'll have close to 15 books published.
It's
And so it's
amazing.
magical. It is magical, the process of healing with people. They show up to publish a book, but in the end, it's this beautiful experience of putting the words in and releasing it. And um, it's so much more than the publishing. And so beautiful people are coming to my team. Like now I have Jenny Jolly, who came through virtual
Oh,
networker referral, and now
yeah.
she's my main editor. And I had an
Wow.
intern, and she's now my main designer. And I'm honored that it became this place of healing.
Hmm.
And I even proudly, I released one of my authors who didn't fit that niche, and I felt that their messaging wasn't my brand. It
Right.
wasn't. It wasn't. Um, it was from the lens of product driven
Right.
versus soul driven. And I actually had a really candid conversation and said, I don't think we're a good match. How can I support you? Once that one author in that book that wasn't quite my content, it
Yeah.
kind of stood out. Once that was gone, it was like then Hezzie Mae just went poof. So I'm learning because it's a new process too. And it's not a
Yeah.
certain genre. Like I've got a journal. This is one of my authors did 100-day. Aligned Enchantment was 100-day. This is a reflective soul journey. We both participated where it's growth and growing, and it's her art from the day. It's from her journaling, and then it's
Wow.
reflective prompts. So again, it's soul work. That's
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my new company.
Oh my God. I'm like living a little secret dream through you because I remember one time thinking like, because I'm such a book like enthusiast, like I just can't, I'm always reading like 4 at a time. And I devour books. I'm just like, and I remember once thinking like, I would love to have a little publishing house, like because I think it's such a like what a beautiful process to be able to help an author bring a book out into the world. So
Yes.
I just love that you do that. And I love how I think it's important for people to remember that like we build our courage as we take intuitive leaps, right? So the courage that you just were talking about that you had to release an author because it wasn't aligned, like you built that up, from all of the intuitive leaps that you took before. And I think that's so beautiful. And we're going to share all the links to all of your things
Thank
in
you.
the show notes of this episode because I know that there's so many people in my orbit that are telling me all the time, like, I think I have to write a book also. I think there's a book in me also. And so I'm all about supporting people to get their stories out into the world as well. And I'm just so honored that you came on the podcast, Heather. It's been really, really great. And I can't wait for this to come out in the world and for your story to just go spread some like little fairy dust around. It's been really wonderful.
Absolutely. Ripples to waves to magic.
Yes.
That's my tagline.
Oh, I
Thank
love
you for
it. I love
having
it.
me. I loved just chatting with someone that we speak the same language, and we I think have the same mission by sharing this
Yeah.
information. It is through storytelling, our personal stories, that we all make a difference. It's by
I
by
totally agree.
releasing it, and so I appreciate you having me on here, and I know the right people will get it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's just take a moment to take in that story. My wish is that it inspires you into the aligned action that you are really ready for. You also don't have to do this alone. Just like my guests have shared about all the incredible people that have supported them along their journey, we are here for you too. If you're ready to uplevel your personal leadership, take big leaps in your life, or take that next leap on your entrepreneurial journey, join us at the School of Intuitive Leadership so that you can experience more ease, flow, joy, abundance, and live in your full brilliance and wake up each day to the life that you really want. Find out more at jenniferjaneyoung.com or at theschoolofintuitiveleadership.com. And participate in this movement with us by sharing an episode that deeply inspired you and leaving us a review. I can't wait to see you on the next episode.